Imagine waking up on a totally normal Monday morning, but instead of grabbing your car keys and shuffling to a boring sedan, you put down your coffee, open your garage door, and step into the glowing cockpit of a 60-foot-tall, heavily armored mechanical titan. You strap in, press a ridiculously large red button, and fusion engines roar to life with a deafening, earth-shaking hum. With a massive leap, you blast off into the morning sky, soaring above the clouds to commute to your totally average office job. Giant robots, Mechs, Gundams, whatever you want to call them, they represent the absolute peak of human science fiction fantasy. From epic anime showdowns to multi-billion-dollar Hollywood blockbusters, we are collectively obsessed with the idea of piloting a colossal metal avatar. There is just something fundamentally satisfying about trading our squishy, fragile flesh bodies for thousands of tons of indestructible steel and lasers. But what if this glorious dream wasn't just confined to the movie screen? What if it suddenly became our actual reality? Imagine that tomorrow morning, a mysterious alien race visits our solar system and decides to bestow the ultimate gift upon humanity. Overnight, every single person on Earth, all 8 billion of us, is gifted their very own personal, fully functioning giant mecha suit. No instruction manuals, no licensing exams, just keys left under the doormat to the most devastating war machines ever conceived. Would this usher in a shiny new utopian era of endless possibilities, space exploration, and global harmony? Or would humanity, given its track record with literally every other piece of technology, instantly destroy itself before lunchtime? Spoiler alert. While the fantasy sounds incredible, the harsh laws of physics, combined with the absolute chaos of human nature, have a very dark, very explosive sense of humor. Prepare yourself because things are about to get catastrophically messy. Welcome to the ultimate sci-fi fantasy breakdown. Let's see how quickly we can ruin your childhood dreams. Let's start with the bad news. The universe actually hates giant robots. It despises them with a passion. If you simply scale up a human to the size of a skyscraper, you instantly run into a brutal, undeniable wall of physics. Called the square cube law, it is the ultimate buzzkill of biomechanics and structural engineering. As any object grows larger, its volume, and therefore its weight, increases exponentially faster than its surface area and cross-sections. So, a 60-foot-tall humanoid robot wouldn't just be incredibly heavy. It would be catastrophically, fundamentally impossible. The sheer, concentrated mass of its upper body armor and weapons would put unimaginable pressure on the supporting structure of its legs. The moment it takes a single step, the thick steel legs would crumple under their own weight like a cheap soda can. And down goes your billion-dollar war machine, face first into a residential building. But wait, even if the legs survived, the ground wouldn't. To stand on two legs, all that immense weight is concentrated into two relatively tiny footprints. Every time you took a step, the foot would sink deep into the earth, bursting high-pressure water mains, severing fiber-optic cables, and collapsing subway tunnels. Your simple morning commute would leave a trail of multi-million-dollar property damage, instantly bankrupting your local city council. But, for the sake of the argument, let's assume our alien benefactors knew about this and built these mechs out of a magical, indestructible, ultra-lightweight superalloy, a fictional material so strong it defies gravity. Let's call it Platarmorium. Great. With Platarmorium, the robot can stand, walk, and fly without collapsing the Earth's crust. But now, we have a much bigger problem. To make a giant metal humanoid run, jump, and punch, you need an incomprehensible, mind-boggling amount of energy. A human body runs on about 2,000 calories a day. A 60-foot mech would burn through that just by blinking its giant neon eyes. So how do we power it? You might think we could just use modern lithium-ion batteries like the ones in your phone or electric car. But if you powered a 60-foot mech with current battery tech, the battery alone would weigh as much as an office building. Your sleek, terrifying, futuristic war machine would be permanently stuck carrying a massive, heavy backpack like a struggling hiker. And even with that colossal battery, a full charge would let you fly for about 3 minutes before completely dying midair. No, to keep a 500-ton Titan moving, you need something far more potent. You need a miniaturized fusion reactor. Specifically, an incredibly unstable, high-temperature miniature star burning right inside the chest cavity of every single mech. Congratulations! Humanity has successfully solved the weight problem and the energy crisis in one fell swoop. But in doing so, we have just handed out 8 billion walking, jumping nuclear reactors to the general, highly unpredictable public. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let's take a look at a minor, everyday traffic accident. If 2 cars crash today, you get a dented bumper. If 2 nuclear-powered mechs crash at an intersection, it wouldn't just be a fender bender. It would be a localized, highly volatile radioactive event. Your entire neighborhood would instantly be vaporized into a glowing green crater, just because someone forgot to use their turn signal. So, assuming we somehow magically survive the daily localized nuclear explosions, how do you even drive one of these things? You might think of using standard joysticks, steering wheels, or a ridiculously complex gaming keyboard to control it. But controlling hundreds of individual hydraulic joints and thrusters manually is impossibly slow. By the time you hit walk, you've already fallen over. To move a machine with the fluid grace of a human body, you need a neural link. The mech must plug directly into your brain. In theory, this sounds amazing. Specialized nanobots would connect your neurons directly to the machine's central processor. You wouldn't just pilot the mech, you would become the mech. You could feel the wind on your titanium plating and perform elegant ballet. But there is a fatal flaw. The human brain evolved to control a squishy meat sack, not a 500-ton weapon of mass destruction. Plugging into a mech means receiving millions of sensory inputs per second. Radar, thermal imaging, radiation levels, wind speed, targeting telemetry. The sheer volume of raw data would cause instant sensory overload, essentially turning your brain into a panicking, stuttering popcorn machine. And worse, a neural link works both ways. The machine doesn't just read your conscious commands. It reads everything. Every emotion. Have you ever experienced road rage? In a normal car, you honk your horn, yell a bad word, and eventually move on. But if you are directly wired into a giant nuclear death machine, every fleeting, intrusive thought is instantly manifested in reality. Instead of merely honking, your giant metal arm instinctively reaches down and rips the entire highway overpass completely in half. Your amygdala, the part of the brain that handles anger and fear, is suddenly directly hardwired to hypersonic missile pods. Even a simple biological reflex could be catastrophic. Imagine sneezing, and your mech accidentally fires a chest laser that vaporizes a mountain. Combining the awesome power of a fusion reactor titan with the emotional stability of an average commuter on a Monday morning is a recipe for instant apocalypse. Let's ignore the constant threat of nuclear annihilation for a second and look at a normal Tuesday in this new Mecha era. With everyone soaring through the air instead of driving, your morning commute would evolve into a three-dimensional nightmare fuel of traffic jams. You think a single cargo ship blocking the Suez Canal was bad? Wait until a massive green mech slips and wedges itself perfectly across the Grand Canyon. And what about running basic errands? Going to the grocery store would suddenly become a high-stakes, physically impossible tactical operation. How exactly do you gently pick up a single, fragile apple when your metallic fingers are the size of actual minivans? You don't. You just end up turning the entire produce section into a sticky, colorful puddle of cartoon juice. So you'd have to step out of the mech to shop, which means leaving a 500-ton machine parked literally on top of someone's house. Then there is the inevitable economic divide. The traditional wealth gap would instantly evolve into a terrifying technological gap. The ultra-rich wouldn't just have nicer cars. They would pilot sleek, hyper-advanced mechs with solid gold armor and active laser defense systems. Meanwhile, the rest of us would be stuck commuting in second-hand, heavily rusted models bought off sketchy internet forums. You know, the kind where the left arm randomly stops working and just falls off in the middle of a busy intersection. Or even worse, the incredibly unstable fusion reactor in the chest starts making a weird, concerning rattling sound every time you sneeze. Under the weight of billions of these machines, our public infrastructure would completely cease to exist. Paved roads would become endless mud pits. But perhaps the saddest part of the Mecha era would be the extreme social isolation. We'd be physically trapped inside our metal cages, communicating only through screens, completely disconnected from the soft, beautiful reality of human contact. And then, the arguments would start. Because human beings inherently struggle to keep the peace even when we only have access to sticks, stones, and angry internet comments. Now, imagine handing every single emotionally unstable individual on the planet a personalized, walking doomsday device. A simple, everyday neighborhood dispute over a noisy dog wouldn't just end with a passive-aggressive note left on a windshield. It would instantly escalate. Before you know it, you have two colossal war machines pointing hypersonic missile pods at each other over a white picket fence. Thanks to the neural link, there is no time to calm down. No deep breaths. Just pure, unfiltered impulsive rage channeled directly into plasma cannons. Someone flinches. A single button is pressed. And the fragile social contract completely and instantly evaporates. In the Mecha era, a global conflict wouldn't take years of rising political tension and slow troop movements to build up. It would take exactly one bad Tuesday afternoon to trigger a planetary chain reaction of unparalleled, cartoonish violence. Cities would crumble in minutes. If all 8 billion heavily armed mechs engaged in combat simultaneously, the raw kinetic energy would be devastating. But the real killer wouldn't even be the lasers. It would be the heat. Billions of miniature fusion reactors running at maximum output. The combined thermal exhaust from all those machines fighting would literally boil the oceans away, filling the atmosphere with scalding steam. Within hours, the surface of the Earth would be scorched into a glowing, lifeless orange cinder, spinning quietly in the dark. And humanity's grand, beautiful sci-fi dream would end with our silhouettes peacefully dissolving into radioactive star dust. Well, that's a bit depressing, isn't it? Giant personal Gundams are objectively a terrible, world-ending idea. But does that mean the dream of mechanical augmentation is entirely dead? Not quite. Science is actually building mechs right now. They just look a little bit different than what you see in the blockbuster movies and anime shows. Instead of building 60-foot titans of destruction that we sit inside and pilot like vehicles, we are building sleek, human-sized robotic suits that sit outside of us. We call them exoskeletons. And unlike the fictional war machines, these aren't designed to fight aliens, shoot lasers, or destroy city infrastructure. They are being designed and tested right now to actually help people in the real world. Let's look at the medical field. Imagine a patient who has lost the ability to walk due to a severe spinal injury or a neurological condition. By strapping into a medical exoskeleton, advanced neural sensors can read the faint electrical signals directly from their muscles, and the robotic frame provides the physical strength and structural support to help them stand up and walk again. This isn't science fiction. It is a developing reality that is slowly giving people their mobility and independence back today. Or consider heavy industry. Human bodies are fragile and highly prone to back injuries when lifting heavy loads on construction sites. Industrial exoskeletons act as a wearable support system, distributing the physical strain away from a worker's spine and knees. With mechanical assistance, a warehouse worker can lift heavy steel beams or massive concrete blocks with the ease of carrying a feather. It significantly reduces workplace injuries, prevents long-term physical damage, and turns ordinary people into literal heavy-lifting superheroes. In emergency situations, search and rescue teams equipped with these suits could effortlessly lift collapsed rubble to save trapped survivors. A 6-foot suit of mechanical muscles that saves a human life is infinitely cooler and mathematically much safer than a giant robot. The fantasy of the giant robot is really a fantasy about power. It's the deep-seated desire to be larger than life, completely invincible, and capable of changing the world with a single punch. But true power isn't about how big you are, or how many incredibly destructive lasers you can fire from your chest. It's about using the tools we have to lift each other up and build a better future, rather than stepping on the pavement until it crumbles. So the next time you watch a giant robot anime, sit back, relax, and fully enjoy the ridiculous, over-the-top explosions. Just be glad that when you walk outside, the only thing you have to pilot is your own squishy, fragile, completely non-nuclear body. Want to learn more about how close we are to building real, practical exoskeletons? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the weird universe. Thanks for watching.